Now in this video, I'm going to talk about a really interesting question that one of my students asked. The student asked this question, what activities can you do outside of learning from the course that can help you improve your verbal skills? Now, to answer this question, there's one thing that you have to understand. GMAT Verbal is a test of your ability to understand written text and reason based on the strain. The strategies that you learn while excelling on GMAT Verbal will not only help you ace the GMAT, but also enhance your understanding in your profession and personal life. It will help you do well in your professional life as well as in your personal life. So there are three things that you could do to improve your verbal ability in addition to learning from the course. First thing is that you can read and analyze high quality content. How do you go about doing this? There are three ways that you can do this. First of all, you engage deeply with reports and articles from authoritative sources and sources such as Gartner reports, opinion column in the New York Times, or looking at short articles in The Economist. When you do this, these are authoritative columns, and what I want you to do is focus on understanding how authors construct their arguments, which typically begin with presenting concrete facts before drawing logical conclusion. Okay, I want you to develop a systematic approach. As you read, keep a pen and paper handy to summarize each paragraph systematically. This will help you distill the main ideas and evaluate how they relate to the overall topic of the article. Being methodical in this exercise is crucial for effective learning. Another thing that you can really do is analyze logical structures. Recognize that a well-crafted article is composed of multiple layers: facts, intermediate conclusion, and a central idea or the main conclusion. For each intermediate conclusion, consider how it supports the central idea. Practice identifying ways to strengthen these conclusions by adding relevant supporting details that align with the presented facts. Conversely, consider how such conclusions can be weakened if certain details or perspectives were introduced. There's one thing that I want you to exercise over here, which is to make sure that you do not counter the established facts or the stated facts here. Always ensure that your critique or analysis remains grounded in the context provided by the article. Okay. Now this is a challenging exercise, but one thing that I can really tell you is that doing this exercise is extremely rewarding and it sharpens your reasoning skills incredibly. Here's an example. So let's take an excerpt from an article that says telecommuting can significantly reduce a company's operational costs. Businesses that have adopted telecommuting policies report lower overheads due to decreased needs for office space and utilities. Now the conclusion here, it can be strengthened by showing a few things. One is by showing cost-saving data from companies that have adopted similar practices. Another way to strengthen the conclusion is by adding details to show that the cost of implementing technologies to enable remote work, those costs would be significantly lower than the cost that the company would save on office space. So again, these are two ways to strengthen the conclusion. As you read this, if you're doing this, you're building that mental agility. Okay, so that's one thing. You look at and read excellent established work and learn from it by doing certain things. There's another thing that you could really do, which is evaluating and reorganizing peer content. Now, when reviewing content from your peers, these are people who are probably not experts, who've not done it in the most logical form, you may encounter documents that lack a clear logical structure or a strong expression. This key point focuses on how you can reorganize such content to improve clarity and overall flow. Now, when you do this, it enhances your own analytical and organization skills. So how do you go about doing this? So begin by identifying the main goal of a document and you scan the document structure and ask yourself, does this structure align with the main goal of the argument? Critically evaluate the clarity and logical flow, checking if conclusions follow clearly from the data presented. Use reorganization techniques to highlight key findings early in the document and to ensure that a coherent flow is established by adjusting content and enhancing transition. This is something that GMAT RC does. You could do that for your argument as well. Finally, simplifying the language for better understanding and incorporating visual aids to clarify complex information could help tremendously. Again, as you go through this exercise, you would go through the process of creation. And I can tell you this is grueling, but this again is extremely rewarding here. Okay, now let's take an example of how you could do this. So imagine a colleague has drafted a market analysis report, but the key findings about market growth are buried in the middle of the document, surrounded by extensive data analysis and technical knowledge. Now, you could reorganize that document by starting with a strong introduction, highlighting major insights, such as significant market growth or other things. Rearrange that supporting data to follow this introduction, ensuring that each section builds logically upon the previous one. As you transition, make sure you transition clearly by using visual aid and you underscore key data points, making this report both informative and engaging. Okay. Finally, try and reduce the technical jargon. This last point will help you tremendously, not just with your overall understanding, but also with your MBA application. Okay. Now, I want to also talk about a third point, which is somewhat related. This is when you encounter something that's poorly written. So when you encounter something that's ambiguous or poorly written, clearly evaluate and assess potential misinterpretation, and look at how you could reword it or enhance clarity by rewording certain aspects. And one way to do this is by paying close attention to precision of terms such as some, most, many, ensuring that any comparisons that are there are clear and are logically presented. For example, if the report states many customers are satisfied with the product, but the overall intention of the report was to imply a significant majority of customers or satisfied with the project, then you can with the product, then you can refine the statement by saying that 75% of customers reported satisfaction. If the data shows that number is around that 75% mark, by doing that, you provide a lot more clear and a lot more precise information. When you do this, this practice will sharpen your skills in writing and understanding information overall. Okay. So these were 3 strategies that you could use. And the thing that I want to really tell you is that these strategies are instrumental for mastering GMAT Verbal and also are an essential a part of your everyday life. These provide essential life skills. By engaging in critical analysis of both well-written as well as poor content, you reinforce your learning and accelerate your progress. As you continue practicing these strategies, it will lead to notable and fast improvements. So with that, as we always say, good luck and happy learning.